Welcome back, dear students. Today we will be once again discussing on the chapter Human Reproduction, and it'll be part 2 of the Human Reproduction chapter. Today we will be discussing on the female reproductive system. So without further delay, let's get started. We know that the female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries, the fallopian tubes, also known as the oviducts, uterus, vagina, vulva, accessory genital glands, and mammary glands. We will be discussing all these parts one by one, but before that, we need to know the puberty stage in females. In my previous class, I've explained to you what puberty means. So we have also discussed about puberty in males. So likewise, we will also be discussing about puberty in females. In girls, the puberty stage starts at the age of 10, and puberty in female is mainly initiated by the hormone estrogen. So what are the changes that occurs during puberty in females? These are the following changes. First, enlargement of breast and the genitalia. Next is initiation of ovulation and menstruation. And next, broadening of pelvic region. Next, growth of the pubic and axillary hair. Increase in subcutaneous fats in thighs, buttocks, and face. And last is the psychological changes. That means along with all the physical changes, we also see some psychological changes taking place in females during the puberty stage. So now let us have a look at the female reproductive system. We already saw how the male reproductive system is organized and how the male gametes are produced. In a similar way, we will look at the structure and parts of the female reproductive system too. Here it is. So the first very important part of the female reproductive system is the ovary, and they are the primary sex organs. We call them the primary sex organs of the female reproductive system because they are the ones, the ovary is the one that produces the female gametes. And where is it located? It is located one on each side of uterus or the lower abdomen. That means it is situated, we have two ovaries, one on the right hand side, here is the ovary, and the other on the left hand side, this is the ovary. And that is why they are often referred as the right ovary and the left ovary. And the third point, what is their function? Their function is to produce the female gametes. What is the female gametes called? It is called ovum or ova, or if you like it, you can also call them egg cells. It means the same. So basically, when we talk about the sexual reproduction in human beings, fusion happens between the sperm and the ovum. Sperm is the male gametes and the ovum is the female gametes. And we have another function of ovary, that is, it secretes the female hormones known as the estrogens and progesterone. Uh, both of these hormones are secreted by ovaries. And what is the function of progesterone? It helps the woman during the delivery of baby. That means progesterone takes care of the entire period of pregnancy. So that is why progesterone is very important hormone that is required in the female's body. And the function of estrogen is that it takes care of all the female reproductive activities taking place inside the body, starting from the secondary sexual characters in females, like enlargement of breast, menstrual cycle, etc. So this is all about ovary. Now let's see the structure of ovary. In the previous slide, I have shown you that we have we have one pair of ovary, that is one on the right hand side and the other on the left hand side. So how is it structured? Number one, it is covered by a thin epithelium. And number two, it has an ovarian stroma. That is, everything that is inside the ovary is the ovarian stroma. And this ovarian stroma is again divided into two parts. One is known as the peripheral cortex. It is the outermost part of the stroma. And the inner medulla is the inner layer of the ovarian stroma. That's all about the structure of ovary. Now we'll go to the second part of the female reproductive system, that is the fallopian tube, or it is also known as oviduct. It is called oviduct just so that it will be related to the other words like ovary, ovum. Just for that, it is given the name oviduct. So how does it exist? It exists in pairs. So where is the fallopian tube? Here is the fallopian tube. We see one on the left hand side and one more on the right hand side. So just like ovary, they are also present, one on the left and one on the right. And where do they originate from? They originate from the periphery of ovary and extends up to uterus. You will see that it originates from here, from the periphery or the boundary of ovary, and it goes on and it opens in the, it extends up to the uterus. Okay, this is the uterus. Now, uh, so basically, it is a fallopian tube that connects the ovary and the uterus. Now, why is it necessary that the fallopian tube has to connect the ovary and the uterus? Because its purpose is to receive ovum from ovary. So, ovary is the one which will release the ovum, that is the egg. So it will allow the egg to pass through the fallopian tube and reach the uterus. That is why it is important for the fallopian tube to extend up to the uterus so that it can receive ovum from the ovary. And the fallopian tube is again divided into four parts. What are they? The first one is the infundibulum, and the second is the ampulla. Infundibulum is broad funnel shaped, and next is the ampulla. It is long, wide, and thin-walled part of the fallopian tube. Next is the isthmus. It is short, narrow, and thick-walled portion of the fallopian tube, and the uterine part is the one that passes through the uterine wall and opens in the uterus. So that is the fallopian tube. And now we have the uterus. Here is the uterus. That is the third part of the female reproductive system. What is the, how does the uterus look like? It is hollow and pear-shaped in structure with thick muscular wall. So where do you find the uterus here? The uterus is here. This is the uterus. You can see it looks like a pear shape and it has a thick muscular wall. This is the uterus and this is the thick muscular wall of the uterus. And what happens, that means what? The uterus, it has got the thick muscular wall. That means it is made up of muscles and is in the shape of a pear. And that is why it can, it helps in the contraction and expansion. Because it is made up of muscles, it helps in the construction and expansion of the uterus. And next, what happens is the fetus develops here. You know what is a fetus, right? So the fetus develops here. How does it develop? The egg released from ovary gets fertilized and passes through the fallopian tube and finally reaches the uterus. So what happens is egg is being produced here from the egg released from the ovary gets fertilized and passes through the fallopian tube and finally reaches the uterus. This is how the fetus develops. Once it is fertilized and reaches the uterus, then the fetus will start developing. And we have the cervix. This is the cervix. It is the lower narrow part of the uterus. So you can see this is the lower and the narrow part of the uterus. Next, we will see the structure of uterus. That means what is the uterus made up of? It is mainly made up of three layers: the perimetrium, the myometrium, and the endometrium. The perimetrium is the outer thin covering of the peritoneum, and it has a loose connective tissue. It has a loose connective tissue. So you can see in the previous diagram, here is the endometrium. This is the endometrium. This is the myometrium. Okay. And myometrium is the middle thick layer of the smooth muscles. Myometrium is the middle thick layer of the smooth muscle. You see here, this is the myometrium. It is the thick layer, it is the middle layer, and it has got smooth muscles here. And the last is the endometrium. This is the innermost layer. So the innermost layer is known as the endometrium, and it is the glandular layer that lines the uterine cavity. Next, we have the vagina. It is a fibromuscular tube-like structure. That means it is a path through which all the discharge takes place. And it is in the vagina that the sperm discharge occurs. What do you mean by the sperm discharge here? That means during the sexual intercourse, the penis enters this area, and the urethra from the male releases sperms in this area. And those sperms will enter and try to reach wherever the eggs are. So it will enter from here and they will try to reach the place wherever the eggs are there. And that is how fertilization will take place. We will see that where and how fertilization happens. So now you should understand that vagina is the region where the sperms are discharged by the penis. So when we say that it is where the sperm discharge occurs, that means the sperm from the male is being released in this area, and from here the sperm will pass and move to the place where the eggs are present. And next is the vagina acts as birth canal. So what does it mean? That means the baby, you know that the baby remains in the womb for 9 months, and when the baby needs to be delivered, these uterus muscles tend to contract, and the baby is being pushed in the downward direction. This uterus will contract and the baby will be pushed to the downward direction, and the baby moves through the vaginal tubes and is brought out of the human body through the vaginal opening. As the uterus contracts, the baby will start moving downwards in this manner, and the baby will be brought out or released through this opening in the vagina. So that is how delivery of the baby takes place, and that is the reason why vagina is called as the birth canal, or it acts as the birth canal. Now let's get back to the structure of uterus. The perimetrium, it is the outer thin covering of peritoneum, and it has got a loose connective tissue. That means this connective tissue tries to keep the uterus distinct from other parts of the body, because it is important that the uterus is separated from other parts of the body. So it is this loose connective tissue that will keep it separate from other parts of the body. Next is the myometrium. I have told you it is the middle thick layer of smooth muscles, and then it is in this place where the contraction takes place during the childbirth. I have talked to you about how the uterus starts contracting when the baby is delivered. So that time it is this layer that helps the uterus to contract in the myometrium. That is how childbirth will take place. And next is the endometrium, the inner glandular layer that lines the uterine cavity. That means it undergoes a cyclical change during menstrual cycle. It is in this layer that a series of changes takes place when the menstrual cycle starts in the body of the female. Next, we have the vulva. This is the fifth part of the female reproductive system. It is divided into 5 parts. First is the mons pubis. It acts as a cushion of fatty tissue. And it is covered by skin and the pubic hair. The mons pubis acts as a cushion, and this is covered by the skin and the pubic hair. The second is the labia majora. This is the large lips, and it is a pair of thick folds of skin containing pubic hair, sweat glands, and sebaceous glands. And we also have the labia minora. These are the small lips, and these are nothing but 2 small folds of mucous membrane lying on the inner side of labia majora. And the fourth one is the clitoris. It is a small, erectile, and highly sensitive organ. That means it is located at the outermost angle of the vulva in front of the urethral opening. In front of the urethral opening, you will find the clitoris. Okay. Next is the hymen. In the virgin state, a thin membrane called diaphragm, the hymen is present at the vaginal orifice. What do you mean by the vaginal orifice? It is nothing but the opening of vagina. So let's discuss this in details. Now, we know that we uh, judge a girl whether she's a virgin or not in different manners, but biologically we can say whether the girl is a virgin or not by looking at the hymen, but that will also not give you the true uh, result if the girl is a virgin or not. Because why? We know that a slit in the hymen or a little tear in the hymen allows menstruation flow to pass out. So it may rupture, and this hymen can rupture due to various reasons. It can rupture due to sudden jerk, or it can rupture due to cycling. That means girls who do a lot of cycling, your hymen may have been ruptured. Not necessarily that it will be ruptured, but it may have been ruptured. And horse riding, and in some women, hymen persists even after coitus. Okay, so in fact, the presence or absence of the hymen is cannot exactly tell that is not the real indicator of the virginity of a female. Some may have lost your virginity just because of various reasons that I have mentioned. So now we will go to the accessory glands. What are these? The female has got just one accessory gland. That is the mammary glands, which is also known as the Bartholin's glands or vestibular glands. So let's see them in details. Mammary glands are located where? They're located in the female breast. Here is the diagram of a female breast. And how do they occur? Obviously, there are two breasts, so they obviously exist in pairs. And what is their function? Their function mainly is to produce milk only after the childbirth. That means even though the mammary glands begin to develop in females under the influence of estrogen and progesterone hormones, it will produce milk only after childbirth. The mammary gland is there in the breast of a female, no doubt, but it is not able to produce milk until the female gives birth to a baby. So it will be able to produce milk only after the childbirth. Next, each breast has an erectile nipple surrounded by a circular dark pigmented area called areola. So you will see that surrounding your breast, the breast has got a nipple, okay, and it is surrounded by a circular dark pigmented area. So this area is basically surrounded by a round circular dark colored pigmented area. It is dark in this area, and this is known as the areola. Here is the areola. This is the nipple and this is the areola. And they are the mammary glands are composed of glandular tissue and fat. They're composed of glandular tissue and fat. Here is the fat. And we will see that the glandular tissue of each breast is divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes. You will find that these glandular tissues are divided into 15 to 20 mammary lobes. These are the lobes. You will find that this is the mammary lobe. It is around 15 to 20 in each mammary, in the glandular tissue. And each mammary lobe consists of a number of lobules with glandular or secretory alveoli. The cells of alveoli secrete milk, which is stored in the lumen of alveoli. So you will find that this 15 to 20 mammary lobes, each mammary lobes consist of a number of lobules with glandular or secretory alveoli. So it is this alveoli the cells of this alveoli that will secrete milk, which is stored in the lumen of alveoli. Without this alveoli, the secretion of milk will not be possible. Next, tubules of each lobe join to form mammary ducts. These ducts join to form a wider mammary ampulla, which is connected to lactiferous duct through which milk is sucked out. So you can see here the tubules of each lobe joins to form mammary ducts. The tubules of each lobe forms to join to form the mammary duct. This is the mammary duct, and then this mammary duct will again join to form a wider ampulla, mammary ampulla. This is the ampulla, which is connected to lactiferous duct here, and then it is through this lactiferous duct that milk is sucked out. So you see the fats from here, it is divided into compartments as the mammary lobe, and it will again have the mammary alveolus, which will secrete milk from here. But after the secretion of milk, it has to be converted, it has to be joined to the mammary duct, and the mammary duct has to be joined to the ampulla, and the ampulla will be connected to the lactiferous duct. Only when all these connections take place, then milk will be secreted through the nipple and the milk will be sucked out. Now we will see the secretion of milk. Now, the main function of mammary gland is to secrete and eject milk. You all know, I've told you in the beginning, and this is called lactation. Lactation is nothing but the secretion or an ejection of milk. And lactation is associated with pregnancy and childbirth. It happens only when a female is pregnant and after the child is born. So milk production is stimulated by the hormone called prolactin. That means it is the prolactin that will help in the hormone prolactin will help in the production of milk. And ejection of milk after childbirth is stimulated by the hormone oxytocin. Prolactin will produce the milk, but it will be ejected only after the childbirth, and that will be stimulated by the help of the hormone called oxytocin. And the first milk that comes out of the mother's breast after the childbirth is called the colostrum. It is called the colostrum. And what does the human milk contain? The human milk contains fat, milk protein, lactose, mineral salts, vitamins, antibodies, and water, but poor in iron content. That means if the baby feeds on milk, the baby will be getting all these things except for iron. So in order to gain iron, the baby should be fed some other iron containing food products. Okay, so with this, we have discussed the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. So I think now we are in the situation wherein we can discuss about the various events of sexual reproduction, which we will be discussing in the next video. So till then, stay home, stay safe, and save lives. Bye-bye.